Of housekeeping announcements. Housekeeping announcements, please keep yourself on mute. Please put your camera on, and I see some of you have, so we appreciate that. We do like to see you, and it is much easier for our speakers to see faces when possible. We are recording this, as you just heard, and we will be sending the recording as well as Rhonda's presentation to everyone most likely by tomorrow, and then it'll also be on our website and our YouTube channel. Again, if you have a question for Rhonda relating to the material, you can put it in the chat, or you can, at the end of the program, we'll take questions, or you can raise your hand at the end. So whichever you're more comfortable with doing. And it's my pleasure to introduce Rhonda. I'll introduce Rhonda first. Rhonda is a member of BCAR and has been the co-chair of the Education Committee since 2021. Thank you for your service, Rhonda. I work with Rhonda very closely on all of these Zoom programs. She's a realtor with Long and Foster and has been since 2019. She's an educator and a community volunteer, as well as a former paralegal. She currently is the owner and operator of Cocoon Wellness Spa, which I did not know. So congratulations on that. I'll have to be asking you more questions about that, Rhonda.
Thank you.
So she's really big. She's a volunteer with the Home and School Association. She's super busy, and she's the perfect person to discuss mastering your real estate business. Systems for success without stress. So we appreciate that. Now, David is one of our affiliate members, and as I mentioned, he's going to give you a little bit of information about his company. So our affiliate members support BCAR, and we really thank them for joining and for doing these events with us. David is the managing director of Current Environmental, and he has over 25 years of experience in the environmental services industry. His expertise includes his phase 1, 2, and 3 environmental site assessments, as well as management of remedial investigations and actions related to mold, soil, and groundwater. So I'm going to turn it over to you, David, and as soon as you're done, Rhonda, you go right on. Thank you, guys.
People, I'll be really quick. We've been a member for a while. It's actually a very good association. We belong to some other associations, and Bucks tends to be a bit more active in helping people with the classes and everything. We're environmental consultants. We're contractors as well. We've been around 26 years. How we can be a resource to you is you may have an environmental question that comes up in a transaction, right? And it could come up that someone has a question regarding lead or radon or mold or tanks or formaldehyde, or imagine just some question. You're like, you don't want to be a deer in the headlights. If you call our office, there's a lot of smart people here, smarter than me, quite frankly. And you say, I belong to Bucks and I have a question over something. They're happy to discuss with you, like a septic or a leach field or a cesspool, something you may not be used to. They can bore you to death. They can give you some details and give you some talking points that'll help sharpen your skills to maybe answer the questions that maybe your client may have, either representing the buyer or representing the seller. We do a lot of work. If we don't do it, I certainly could refer you to someone who does. But a lot of people look. You buy an older home, it's going to have lead paint, asbestos. My house from 1930, I have them both. I don't really care unless I'm going to be taking down a wall. If I take down a wall, maybe I want to test it so when the demolition occurs, it's not getting airborne. But otherwise, you're not really going to disturb it. So a lot of people have a mindset regarding environmental, but they don't really know why they're concerned about it. We can actually be somewhat realistic. We want your transactions to go through. I'm talking in Orlando for the in February for the home inspectors, and one of the things I talk about is I would buy a house with black mold because there's no such thing as black mold, and I've never dealt with a house that had a mold problem that people couldn't live in it. So I mean, people press the panic button, and we want to be a little more realistic. I'm going to let you get on to the main event since I am just nothing with any of this. We are going to the happy hour this week. If you're there, we will be there. I'd love to talk to you. All right.
Thanks, David.
Good thing.
Okay, Rhonda, it's up your turn. Thanks, Rhonda.
Thank you, David and Lisa. And thanks everyone for having me today. I feel really fortunate to be here. I am a person who really wants to see everyone succeed. I do believe in abundance. I think there's enough clients for us all. So you might think I'm crazy for sharing all this information, but I want you to succeed too. And I do have a lot of information to go over. I tried to cram a lot into this class since it is such a wide topic. So if you do have any questions or anything, just like Lisa said, feel free to put it in the chat. And I hope to have time at the end to answer some. It's all right if we go long, right? Just kidding. She's like, okay, thumbs up. All right, guys. So I just wanted to give you a little table of contents when you're looking back at this later so you can kind of figure out what you want to look at. But these are all the things I'm going to cover. And I'm just going to get right to it. So it's really important to have a plan. As Lisa mentioned, I, uh, have been doing real estate for 5 years. I also now own a spa, but I've also been in the spa world for 24 years. I've had my own business one time before, but when you are a realtor, you have your own business, even if you work for a broker and someone else. So it's important to have a business plan and not just the kind on paper that your insurance company wants to look at. When you have a plan, you and your clients know what to expect. So you want to create your plan, and that's what I'm going to help you do today. We're going to start with the basics and work our way up. So the fundamentals of business planning, whenever you start at a new brokerage or, when you start in real estate, you are going to hear people tell you all the time, know your why, know your numbers. These things are strategically important because, first of all, if you don't know why you're doing these things, you're not going to stick to it. You're not going to follow through. You're not going to remember to keep going. If you don't know your numbers, you're not going to be able to be financially stable and keep the company going. And if you don't have a goal, it's pretty impossible to get anywhere, correct? So, and then of course you want to know where your leads are coming from. If you don't have any leads, that's okay. I'm going to tell you how to get some leads too. So I came up with 6 pillars of winning in your business, finance, mastering your calendar, which I have taught a class about that before, and it is on the YouTube channel if you ever want to look at it. Some things do expire, in these older classes, but a lot of things don't. You also need leads. Some brokerages, I guess, may give you leads, some don't, but it's really important to be able to find your own. I think it's really important to focus on the client experience. It's really important to focus on listings. I think we all know why, especially if you've been a buyer's agent anytime in the last few years. And then, of course, trying to manage your database, which is just one more giant piece of the puzzle. So again, what is your goal? Know your numbers, create your plan, track your numbers, reconcile your numbers. And when I say know your numbers, I'm not just like, okay, what's your split? How much did you make? You absolutely have to keep track of every bit of money going out of your house for your real estate business, whether it's your B-card dues, which are coming up, or your super e-key payments or your mileage, things like that. And then how often are you going to be, reconciling your numbers? You've got to keep tracking them thoroughly. Production goals, expenses, what's your average transaction price? If you don't have an average transaction, that's okay. You can look at the average housing price in your market, average days on market, and then of course debt balances. So how are you going to track your numbers? It's very important to keep track. You really need to say, what is my goal? How many transactions do I need to close to reach your goal? Let's say your goal is you want to take a Caribbean vacation and you need, I don't know, $6,000 for that. So, extra minus all of your, expenses, bills, everything. You need to be able to reconcile, okay, so I need to make this much money to pay my bills. I need to make this much extra. So that's going to at least be one more house, right? So what percentage of your closings will be listings? That's important to know because you know that a listing is going to go to closing. Sometimes when you're working with a buyer, you aren't going to make it. So a listing is guaranteed money. How often will I update my financials? Well, you need to update them at least once a week, but that's just me. I mean, I think some people do it monthly. Um, how often are you going to reconcile? Make sure that you've balanced your financials. Make sure that you have your receipts where they need to go. You have your Amazon purchases where you need to go. You have your everything that you're going to need to file for your taxes where they need to go. So there are different ways, like before I move on from the financials, you know, it is very important to know where you're going, and if you don't, you know, and you need to know where you've been. And if you don't, it's going to be really hard to get there. So, especially people who are doing, you know, a huge amount of production, it's still important to keep track. It's still important to have your goal. Um, so, you know, you can either use an Excel spreadsheet, you can make a Google sheet, like there's a million different ways where you can add things up without being a mathematician. If you have any questions about that, let me know. I do have a little form I can share, but it can be confusing, and I didn't think it was relevant since there's so many ways you can come up with to track your own numbers. But if you need help with that at the end, let me know. So, mastering your calendar, this is obviously really important. Um, you know, you can decide what kind of calendar you want to use. I'm going to help you figure out how to structure it. And of course, I'm going to recommend that you schedule all of your real estate activities, you schedule your social media and your marketing. If things aren't on the calendar, they don't exist, right? And I always tell people, yearly calendars is where you start. I like to have one that looks like this with blanks. And you know, this is your business. This is your lifestyle. So you need to fill out all of this first. And this is the time of year to do it, right? Like you need to plan what is going to be happening in January, what is going to be happening in June. Um, you can plan your events, your conferences, you can put your holidays, your birthdays, your vacations. I mean, I like to plan those way in advance because they're fun. Uh, Once you've broken things down yearly, you're going to break them down monthly. If there's something that you consistently do each month, like set up a monthly market update for your clients or an email or newsletters, you want to make sure you have that on the calendar so you see it coming up. You have time to work on it, especially if you're in the middle of transactions, that can be, you know, a little stressful, but if you see it on the calendar, you can make sure you take the time to get that done. Then you want to break it down to your weekly calendars, right? Personally, for me, this is kind of how I've always had my schedule set up. I Social media Monday doesn't necessarily mean I'm only posting on social. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But I am going to make sure that I'm recording, that I am getting some B-roll of properties or sharing, you know, properties from my brokerage. I'm going to make sure that, you know, if I have a tip or something, I'm going to try to get all the recording done on Monday because that's usually my slowest day. Tuesday meetings for me. Tuesday meetings is, you know, our brokerage gets together. Wednesdays we have trainings, Thursday showings, follow up Friday. I should really be probably reprimanded though, because one thing I don't have on here is prospecting, right? Which should definitely be listed. And I do that on Tuesday because I don't have that many meetings, guys. But you can also do prospecting daily, which for me, usually, you know, 9 or 10 in the morning every day, I'm trying to call clients. And then sometimes at the end of the day, if I have time, or I'm returning phone calls. So I do recommend time blocking. If you've heard of time blocking before, if you've seen it in my class before, you can see that some people even get as fun and anal to color code. You don't have to go that far. But it's basically a management strategy where you have every part of your day planned and blocked, including when you're going to take breaks, when you're going to do exercise, when you're going to have family time, when you're going to take your dog for a walk, whatever you need to do. And if you are working with a team or working with people, you want to have your calendar printed and posted or at least shared electronically in some way so that everyone in your office is reminded of what's to come, what's on the calendar, and what your intentions are so that you can continue to get those done. And then looking at my weekly schedule here, some of this is relevant, some of it isn't, but as you can see, this is an example, not my own. But this person does follow-ups at this time. If I called people at 8 in the morning, they'd smack me. Although I am Gen X and I like to talk on the phone, um, I can't say I'm making calls at 8 a.m., but you want to make sure you have your prospecting time scheduled. The time that you're trying to get business coming in and get new business because, hey, we've got a client right now, but we might not have one next month and we need to do that. So pick up my kids, family time, all those things are scheduled. Prospecting again should never be deleted, should never be moved, should always be done. Putting it on my calendar makes me do it because it is not one of the things I super enjoy. But we got to get her done so we can have, our next closing. So it's important to kind of know what your most valuable activity is and what your time is worth. And obviously time is kind of money, so respect yours and others. If you set clear expectations, even for your clients, like I do hear often, oh, you don't answer your phone, you aren't gonna be successful. I truly believe this business is a business that you make for you, for your lifestyle. And if you set expectations and say to your clients, listen, I return calls at this time. If we have a transaction going and there's something happening, I'm going to always try to answer my phone. But if I can't, I will get right back to you as soon as I can. Or I will always call you back between these times. If they understand what to expect, they're obviously not going to be upset with you. So, um, anything else on this slide I want to read? Some people like to do voicemails at the start and end of the day. Um, it is always going to be your business and what you find works best for you. So here's some good tidbits now on lead generation and lead management. Because obviously this is why we're here, right? Like we're not going to even have a business if we don't have any leads. Basically, you need to be able to generate, track, and manage your leads effectively. So if you want to take a picture, you will be getting the slides later, but generating leads is one of the most important things we can do. I kind of throughout the presentation talk about that, and Lisa, let me know if I'm, messing up on time here or going too fast or too slow, but really you need to figure out what works best for you, obviously. These are just some examples of ways to try to get leads. So, calling 5 people from your database every day, mentioning that you are creating a vendor list. Oh, I'm putting together all the best vendors in my area. I'm really missing a chimney cleaner. Do you know anybody? Can you tell me who you recommend? Because I really trust your opinion. You can call every one of your friends, family, anybody in your database and ask them that question, and they would be like, oh man, I have a guy, or I don't. But it's a great reason to have a conversation, right? You can also be having an event. Like if you look back at when I was showing you my or my yearly calendar, I do 4 events a year. I always do an Alex's Lemonade stand to raise money for that organization. Me and my kids have been doing that for probably 10 years, ever since they liked lemonade stands. So I would call my clients and say, I'm having this a lemonade stand. We plan it a couple months in advance. It'd be great if you can come. You can bring the kids because Midway Volunteer Fire Company usually comes and buys lemonade and they'll let kids check out the truck, which is awesome. You can call people and say, would you like to know the current market value of your home. Would you like a CMA? Like, I'm just calling around and checking in with my past clients, and I thought of you because you've been there so long now, like you've probably got quite a bit of equity built up in your house. Um, I don't often use the I had a friend use a bad agent. I don't ever like to keep things on the negative. I'm more of a positive person, but this tactic does work for some people where they call and say, "Oh, I had a friend who used a bad agent and had a lot of issues, and I just wanted to see, if you've ever had that happen or whatever. Just wanted to touch base, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. You don't even have to bring up real estate. Um, Breaking bread just means like having lunch. You can try to do that with friends, neighbors, past clients, anytime, vendors. A lot of people have great success with birthday messages on Facebook, call or text video, send something from your database like an email or whatnot. Of course, if you have it just listed, you want to make sure you're announcing to everyone, posting on social media, sending out mailers, emailing a database. I have to tell you, I don't think I get a lot from my Facebook page, but I do get a lot from my Facebook Messenger. So, as far as leads go, I think my Facebook page just exists so people know I'm actually doing real estate. But honestly, I've got 6 Facebook pages, including mine, personal, my real estate, the spa, my personal at the spa, um, and then of course I manage the home and school. So FTHB Marketplace, that basically means first time home buyer. So follow the first time home buyer system. If you're not sure what that is, I want you to make sure that you have hooked up with a lender that you like, that you recommend, and take them out to lunch and ask them all about it. It's a great way to just try to get clients. You can create forms, put, advertising on Facebook for that, but basically there's a lot of programs that the lenders will know about, especially for first-time home buyers, where they can, get qualified even if they have a low credit score, meeting certain requirements. So listing in marketplace, you can, if you don't have listings, you can ask your colleagues if you can borrow one of their listings. Um, always get permission. Don't just run off and do that. But you can, create an advertisement for Facebook Marketplace. Be vague, list important features. Don't say the price. Don't say the address. Tell them to contact you for more information. You can also insert a link for a website if it's a lead capture site. If you have just solds, please make sure, if it's just listings or just solds, if you haven't tried door knocking, I get it. Like some people, it's not their cup of tea, but at least get those clear bags from Amazon or wherever and put your card and print out a little flyer that you just sold the house or you just went under contract or it just went on the market and say, contact me if you're interested. Like, I just wanted to let you know I'm in the neighborhood because I sold this house. That is a great way. Like, honestly, if you have a transaction going, you want to at least get 2 deals from each transaction that you have going. Events. Obviously, I kind of mentioned my Alex's Lemonade stand in the calling of the database. You want to make sure, if you're having an open house, you can invite people all around the neighborhood. You can door knock for that as well. Let's say that you are having a business networking event, or let's say that you're doing cookies with Santa, or you're giving out free pies, or whatever your brokerage is doing. Call everybody you know and invite them to that. Make sure you send them an invitation, okay? Because that is really a great way to get clients easily. Anytime you're trying to help people and give people something for free, they want to help you. So let's say we are doing good. We are killing it. We are getting leads. Now we need to figure out how we're going to track it, right? So this is kind of a cool thing that someone I worked for once in another state came up with, and they called it their momentum tracker. So they would try to have 100-point day when they were seriously prospecting. And you can see here on the right, they gave themselves points for each thing, and then they would fill in if they did it. And at the end, it should equal, up to 100. And of course, there's life points for exercise, spiritual or meditation, drinking your water. Like she was, seriously into Weight Watchers, which I can relate to. So putting it on her list gave her points, made her feel good. If you need something to motivate you, but also to keep you on track, you can create your own momentum tracker. It can literally just be a sheet where you just fill in all the things that you want to do. It doesn't have to be like, let me come up with 100 points, but I do really love the idea of keeping track of what you did that day. And then, of course, you can keep track of what you did that month. If you practice daily gratitude, if you're, doing all those things, can honestly help your business. So just one way, like you don't have to print it out. It doesn't have to be an old school, hey, guess what? I have a piece of paper. Like some people do it on a Google Sheet. Some people do it on a to-do list. There's tons of apps that you can make it a to-do list and you can save it and redo it every day. So one of the biggest things that I think is kind of crazy about our industry is that a lot of times we will touch on a lead and then we don't follow up. And there are a lot of ways to figure out, what to do with your leads. I do keep a list of my leads. Some people, I'll probably mention this later, but have like a whiteboard in their office and they're like, how do you decide if it's a hot, warm, or cold lead? A hot lead is someone who is ready to work with you right now. A warm lead is someone who's going to be ready to work with you in, the next few months. And a cold lead is someone who isn't ready right now, but could be ready in the future. Some people will create a list, 1, 2, 3, and classify their leads that way just to keep on top of them because there's nothing more painful than knowing that someone wanted to work with us and we didn't follow up with them and they went with another agent. There's tons of us out there that are following up. So it's kind of important to, again, put it on your list to follow up, put it on your calendar. This is the time I follow up with these clients. So those are just some of the strategies for keeping in touch. Obviously, we've got calls, we've got texts, we've got inviting them to the events, right? Pop buys is another one, if you've heard of that. I try to do 4 a year, just like 4 events, 4 pop buys. And you want to touch all of the people that you've sold something to, all the people who've sent you referrals, anything like that, anyone who you think is going to help you sell your next home. So my next, really important pillar is our client's experience. Think of a time when you experienced great customer service. What did that look like? And I'm sorry, I dropped my phone. So, I mean, it is a part of our business to work with the public and to have good customer service skills. In my business, I really try to keep an open line of communication. I do try to set expectations as far as times I'm available. Um, again, I've heard many people say, you're not a realtor if you don't do it full time. But again, I own a spa. I do not believe that is true. I believe it's your business and you should create the business you want. And if I am going to set your expectations so you know when I'm going to call you back, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do and then I'm going to do it. I'm going to follow through because again, you got to follow through. You guys have heard that word value proposition. What makes you different as a realtor? If you are touting that you have this value proposition and you are different and you don't follow through with it, it's basically hollow, right? That's not good customer service either. I also really truly believe, every real estate transaction is different. Like that is the other amazing thing about this job. Like we're always learning something different. Some are smoother than others. Every township is different. There's so many things we need to know about all of that. So I do think it's really important after your transaction, after you've posted on social media and everything sounds great, that you check in with how you did with your clients. Whether you create a form that you're going to send to them, whether you ask them a few questions on email, whether you create a Google form with, sign in here and fill this in and keep all the responses. You can ask for reviews at that time. There's a lot of things that make that an important aspect of your customer service, because if you don't know that they weren't happy, like they were, the real estate process is a long process, right? If you get to the closing table and they're happy and then something happens and they seem happy, but they leave and they're not happy and you don't know, that's not going to help your customer service until they tell you. So, I do recommend that for these systems, you create a standard operations procedure manual. And that sounds crazy if you're just a sole realtor, but it is super important to have all of your information in one place. Depending on whoever you work for, wherever you hang your license, it doesn't matter. Some, people have better tech, some people have this, some people have that. If you have your own in writing, starting from here's all my real estate license, here's my broker's license, here's my passwords, here's all the websites I need to get into. This is how I do a seller's consultation. This is how I do a buyer's consultation. If you have all of this in one manual, you're going to make sure that your customers are going to have an even experience, right? You want to create a seller experience timeline. You want to make sure that you're following up with each client similarly, because if one client is like, oh my gosh, she made this beautiful timeline on flyer for me, and then she would send it to me when everything was checked off and we were moving on to the next phase of the transaction, and then the next client didn't get anything from you until the night before closing, like that's not going to be good for your customer service experience. If you have it all outlined, you can't mess it up, right? Whether you're old school and you keep a full file folder and you print out your seller's experience and put it at the front of their folder, or whether you have it all in a database in your computer, or whether you use, Follow Up Boss and you've created like an entire chain of events that need to happen. You want to build your own listing presentation. And I say that because I know a lot of brokerages will provide that for you, but everybody's then got the same one, right? Create your own. Put in it what you think is going to be good to go in it. And of course, you can use the beautiful graphics that are provided for you, or you can use Canva. And then I want you to do the same for buyers. Create your buyer experience timeline. Make sure you're following that. Create, your own buyer's presentation, because again, these are things that we can drop off while we're trying to set an appointment. Hey, Rhonda had one that was totally different. She talked about her, money back guarantee of, if I don't want to work with her anymore, then she's gonna, you know, let me off the hook. Or, I mean, it really depends on what you want to put in it. But if you create each process you will need, you're gonna never have to think, what did I forget? You're gonna check it off as you go, and everybody's going to get at least a similar experience, a streamlined experience. Now, these systems and processes can be as detailed as you'd like. I have worked with people who have a closing process timeline because they want to make sure that they like to, bring a small gift to the closing table, and then within 2 weeks of them moving, make sure that they have a reason to stop by and check in on them and give them a nicer gift. Um, I mean, I've had other people who are like, I need to have poppers with confetti at the walkthrough, like just crazy stuff. Probably don't do that because it's not actually theirs until they sign the paper. But create any process that you will need that you want to streamline for your clients. So I put listings as one of the 6 pillars. And I'm pretty sure everybody probably knows why, right? Because if you've worked with buyers in the last few years, It's been really crazy out there. So, um, I just went to a closing this morning for a buyer, which I was just so thrilled because it was a long time coming. So listings again are, you're definitely usually going to make it to the closing table. So I'm always telling people dust off your listing packet. If you are old school, like myself, because I do meet a lot of people in my regular day-to-day traffic. I have a binder in my office at the spa. I also have a binder in my car with my listing packet and my copies because it is nothing that makes you feel better than being able to hand that to someone who showed some interest in talking with you about real estate and using you to sell their home. You can write letters, cards, make calls, texts, events. You can create scripts for these conversations because what is the worst thing that can happen when you call someone is forget what I want to say, right? Or I don't sound at least knowledgeable. For listings, call your sphere. Obviously look into FSBOs, for sale by owners. I mean, again, if these people who are for sale by owning it, like let's say you call them, set up an appointment to preview the home for a client, ask questions, build a rapport, and they like you and they're like, you know what, this for sale by owner stuff is harder than I thought. I would really want to use with you. I would really like to use you for my realtor. Having that information with you is going to be awesome. And it's just another great way to focus on listings. Again, I talked about the door knocking. If you have one under contract in that neighborhood, it's even better. Some pop buys, like seasonally, I usually like to do mums. I also have an angel tree. I work with Kindness Between Friends, which used to be Between Friends Outreach, and getting angel tree tags out to people who want to purchase gifts and then they have to bring them back. And then we usually try to, visit. So that's just another great way to get clients and help people. So again, events, become a master inviter. We talked about that. And really try to find out, like, look at your past leads. Where did they come from? Did they come from social media? Did they come from word of mouth? I mean, there's so much to be said for word of mouth, guys. Like, really, even as high tech of a world we live in, like, word of mouth is honestly the best. So, database management, finding a CRM that works for you. A CRM is obviously where you're going to keep all of your clients' contact information. Some companies provide you with CRMs. I do recommend that you have your own that is not owned by your brokerage. Only because if you do decide to change a brokerage, there's nothing worse than losing all of that information and all of that history. So, what key features do you want to know about the CRM you're going to use? How much does it cost? Can you send mass emails? Does it give you a website? Will there be a mobile app? There is nothing worse than having a great database, but you can't look at it on your phone when you're not at home in front of your laptop. Is it simple? Is there task and transaction management or a to-do list, which we kind of talked about that with the opportunity tracker? Is there text and video sharing? A lot of them prohibit that, and then people use like other little apps to send mass texts. Can you do a drip campaign, which is just like slowly emailing people regularly to keep in touch with them? Whatever you're going to do, whatever CRM you decide that you like, let me just yeah, whatever CRM you decide that you like, there's a million. Like there's one called Notion where you actually have to figure out how to build yourself what you want, but it's free and no one can take it from you. There's a super advanced one called Follow Up Boss. It costs money. I wish I could give you a figure, but I'm pretty sure it's like $90 a month, but I could be wrong. So don't quote me on that, even though we're recording. Follow Up Boss is amazing, but again, do you want to spend money on that? And if you cancel it, are you going to lose everything that's in your CRM? Things to think about. No matter what you do, choose one and stick to it. I don't care if you use a Google document. It's really up to you. but be consistent with whatever you choose, because consistency is more important than being perfect. Keep following up, keep doing the same thing, keep it in almost an automated state so that you are doing the same thing for each person. Organizing your clients in your CRM. So this is also kind of interesting because I don't really understand why some people don't automatically put people right into their database. But you know, I know some people keep it on the whiteboard, or like I said, Excel, Google, whatever works for you is fine. I really couldn't get that little bullet point to turn black on the bottom. It's still brown. But you're going to use whatever works for you to organize them in your CRM. You can use an opportunity tracker. You can, I recommend you put any and all leads in your opportunity tracker immediately, and then in your phone, and then in your CRM. And I say that because sometimes they're not all linked. If they're all linked, great, perfect. If they're not, you want to make sure you have those 3 steps lined up. You want to review, basically, if you're using it on a piece of paper, or even in your CRM, you want to review it daily and you want to review it weekly. You want to make sure nobody's slipping through the cracks. Maybe you were like, don't send that email to this one, but then I forgot to turn it back on, or, depending on, again, you know, the ones that you're using. So you want to track your lead source for future reference. Again, that's going to help you know where your leads are coming from. Because if you're getting most of your leads from Facebook, you may not want to spend any time doing other, lead generation. All right, this is my final tip, guys, and then we'll take some questions. And this is about the time of year to do it, so I feel really fortunate, Lisa, that we ended up doing this class at this time. It's really important with your systems and processes to make sure that you look at your year in review. You want to look at how many transactions you did. You want to write down what worked. You want to write down what was missing. You want to write down what was broken. And you also want to write down what was confusing. Because again, if we don't know where we have been, we don't know where we're going, and we're doomed to repeat similar mistakes. So, for instance, one of my closings this past year, um, I really think it was definitely my fault. I didn't do the UNO in time. We were able to get everything done, but boy, did that not work. That was missing. That was me because I missed it in my checklist. Even if we have it all, sometimes we make mistakes. And what was confusing? Well, I think a lot of the new rules were confusing. I don't know if anybody else feels about that, but some of the forms we had to get signed for showings, some of those things like that will be on my list when I fill this out. So I think that's about it. I know that was a huge amount of information. So does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, you can raise your hand or unmute yourself, or feel free to just put it in the chat if you have any questions. Skylar, are you trying to raise your hand? Okay, you
Hi.
got.
First, I wanted to say thank you so much. This is actually my very first week of real estate, so I am just trying to absorb as much information as possible. Do you
Welcome.
have, thank you. Do you have any advice that you wish you knew when you were first starting in real estate? I know it was 5 years ago, so if you remember.
I do. Oh, believe me, I do. Well, I mean, a lot of what we just went over would be in that. I mean, I can't stress enough the getting all your stuff organized,
Mhm.
trying to get it so that you are set up without thinking to take care of each transaction. And also the standard operating procedure manual for your own business. I struggled probably, I'm embarrassed to admit, probably the first 2 years of real estate. I would be like, where is this number? Where is this number? Where is this? How do I get to this website? Did I renew this? Did I pay for this? I didn't
Mhm.
have any of that organized, and I wasted a lot of time always like repeatedly trying to find stuff. So putting it all in one place really just makes sense. I also, really want to say, following up is probably the most important thing that you can learn as a realtor, because there's so many times where, someone's like, "Oh, I might be interested, and giving me your card," and I'll be like, "Yeah, can I get your information?" And then I in the beginning of my career, I did not reach back out to them. Like I
Mhm.
was not consistently making the call. I feel like I was in denial as a realtor. Like I don't want to make calls. I don't want to prospect. So I kind of for me, I tried to change it. Like I really don't normally use the term prospecting, because one, I don't feel like that miner in the river, trying to get gold, but it is gold. So that's why I kind of tell everyone, like I'm the master inviter. I'm gonna just, because a lot of times people don't want to come to your event, but they really liked that you called them and invited them, right? So I would say add that to something that you want to make sure you do regularly. I want to say to stay consistent, don't give up. It's a lot. Like you had education for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I need to know all this stuff. So, absorb all the training you can, and just honestly do your best, and be honest and try to take care of people. That's really what we mostly do.
And luckily, I've got like the customer relations experience. Definitely nervous about lead generation and prospecting and all of that fun stuff. Luckily, I do have like a wide network just based on my social stuff. Um, but still trying to find, especially being in a younger generation, trying to find peers that are currently looking for homes or looking to sell. There's not a lot of that. I'm in my early 20s.
That's
So it's
great.
definitely a bit daunting.
Yes, well, and just because, you're not finding peers, there's a lot of people that you will find who will want to buy a house from you. So I wouldn't worry about that, as long as, I mean, you're already clearly communicating and articulate and kind, and that's really what people are going to be looking for. So don't focus on the age group, because there's tons of people who need you, who can afford to buy a house.
Yeah, that's the hope, right?
Yes, amen.
Well, thank you very much for answering my question. I appreciate your presentation. I really do.
I'm good. Well, best wishes, Skylar. Keep in touch.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and Skylar, I just messaged you. We have a new member success committee.
Oh,
That
wonderful.
you, yeah, so it's on our website, and you just send like a committee form saying you want to join it, and they do some fun things. But these Zoom programs are a great way to learn things without, having to go sit in a classroom for 3.5 hours. But
Yeah.
and when you take your new required residential and general modules, they're really very, very, very great. We're offering
Okay.
them, I think, in the spring. So
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. It's honestly, I'm trying to be a professional student at the moment, but also trying to like get out
I
there and get
know
that
that's a
first,
lot.
contract.
Well,
Well, thank you
yeah.
for joining us today. Any other questions for Rhonda? All right, I don't see any, Rhonda, but this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much. It was so much information. I'm really glad that we're able to give people your presentation because it really covered a lot of information. So thanks to all of you for attending today. Again, you'll get a copy of this. And if you have any, if you want to share it with people in your office, please feel free to do so. And Rhonda, thank you. Appreciate all that you do for BCAR,
Thank
for our
you.
education committee. So, somebody has their hand up. Yes, Shika, is it your hand up? Did you want to Maybe it's down. Maybe I just saw. Okay. Anyway, so thank you. And we have a couple of these presentations in December 4th. We've got DEI is offering one, and then December 16th SRA. So just keep an eye out for them. They're really important and they give you a lot of great free information. So thanks all and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye everyone. Thanks.
Bye.